With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future.
The left is siding with illegals, attacking ICE, and fighting to let non-citizens vote. Republican Kelvin King is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, Air Force veteran, and conservative businessman. As Georgia's Secretary of State, Kelvin will put Americans first, root out corruption, clean up voter rolls, and restore confidence in our elections. The other candidates had their chance and failed. Republican Kelvin King for Secretary of State, leadership Georgia voters can trust.
Pro-Trump warrior Steve Gooch won't just cut property taxes in Georgia. He'll throw them straight in the wood chipper.
Senior citizens on fixed income shouldn't be forced from their homes. Neither should veterans who have served our country and fought for our freedoms. And neither should anyone else for that matter. Frankly, these crazy property taxes are un-American. I'll tear them to shreds. We'll make home ownership great again.
Steve Gooch for Lieutenant Governor. Toughest tax cutter Georgia's ever seen.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
Hey folks, how are you today? I am your host, BKP. We are back. So, quick update. I'm your host, BKP. You're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. Thank you for being here today with us. I'm going to give you a couple updates. Number one, I want to start out. I love my 250, right? This is my 250th anniversary shirt. Got my American flag right here. And as you probably already know, I have to thank my mom for that, right? So mom sent me that. I enjoy that. So before we get into this, I'll tell you what we have in store for you today. We have in store, I'm going to mess with the audio just a little. Don't want it to go too high. But I've been waiting to do a full, complete breakdown on the redistricting. Okay, and before we go too far, I know I've been MIA, but not really. My Substack, Vora, V-O-R-A, at BKP Politics has been jumping, and we appreciate it. We've been very busy there. I wrote a couple articles. I did not do videos, but I wrote a couple articles. Now, there's some new things I'm doing I just want to highlight before we get into the redistricting segment. You want to stay put for this. I now have a program where I'm dumping the audio into a program and we're uploading the audio into the Substacks. So even if I don't do a video, I've had people say, can we get the audio of the actual article? And yes, we are putting the article in a program that has a voiceover, so that will be at the bottom. So if you want to listen, go to the bottom. You'll find it there in the Substack. Just a couple highlights. Also, we do, like other companies out there, our marketing company sells advertising, okay? We do not have any insane profit breaks. Just like, you remember Rush Limbaugh used to say we have to take an insane profit break. And Rush Limbaugh was always very proud of the fact that he had sponsors, but he didn't let his sponsors alter his program or the information. He didn't allow that. So I really like that. So I don't want to be just like Rush Limbaugh. He used to say, we're going to now take an insane profit break, right? So we do have to keep the lights on, but we have a simple rule. No one can buy a narrative on the show, right? No one can alter our information. No one can get me to carry water for a politician. No one drives the show. It doesn't happen, and we don't do any cheerleading here. No pom-poms. So I want to be clear, if this is the first time you're watching our video, we do have people on the Substack now that have paid for advertising. We have people on the videos that have paid for advertising, but that's exactly what it is. Now, I want to cover one more thing. We're going to get into redistricting. I've got a very deep redistricting program set up for you today. So go to our Substack. You'll see several of our articles that we've laid out that are in great detail. We'll be doing videos on those articles later, but right now they're just a couple articles. I had someone call me the other day and said, boy, you are really helping. There's two things I want to address. You are really helping Burt Jones. That's our race here in Georgia for governor. And I said, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm providing information to the citizens of Georgia, the voters of Georgia. I get voters' information. And as you well know, I've done an extensive breakdown of Rick Jackson, the candidate for governor. Now, I go into several new things in the articles in Substack that you want to go check out. But I want to be very clear and look everyone in the eye and tell you nothing I am doing is based on me trying to help any particular candidate in any particular way. It's only for information. And if you go through everything I have concerning Rick Jackson, you will find he's not authentic. All right. He's not authentic. Just not. All right. But that being said, we're going to move on. And then someone called me the other day. Let's see. What did they say? Oh, someone wrote on one of the Substacks said, well, you know, although BKP hates Rick Jackson, I don't hate anybody. Period. We'll put it at that. Put it like that. Okay. Another thing, one more. We're going to go to the redistricting. Stay with me. Just one more note. Friday night, Roy. Do you know Roy? I don't know Roy's last name off the top of my head. I'll get it in my next video. So the 15th, next Friday night on the 15th, Roy, what's he call his show? The Underground? What is it called? Boy, I should have looked this up before I got started. Let me see here. Give me 30 seconds or less. All right? I'm going to look this up. I got to find it. It won't take but a second, so bear with me. I'm sorry I didn't get it earlier. Roy Hambrick. I apologize. I should have had that written down before I ever came on here. Roy Hambrick, and his show is, what is it called? The show he has, and I want to get the video. I should have brought the video. Small Town Underground. So I got it now. Relax. We're getting there. So Small Town Underground with Roy Hambrick next Friday night at 7 o'clock. He's invited me over. We're going to do a 7 to 9 o'clock live program. Now, this is dangerous. I asked him, I said, are you sure? Are you sure? Because, I mean, I got to have the green light. And I told him, if I come over, I drive over there because, you know, I love the guy. He's a good guy, right? I said, if I drive over there, over 2 hours from, do they say crib anymore? Right? Right? The crib? I don't know, right? Where I live. If I drive over 2 hours, I got to have the green light. I've been given the green light. So we're going to do a 2-hour special next Friday night, Small Town Underground with Roy Hambrick, 7 to 9, and we're going to break down all the races. And the danger of it is he gave me the green light. So we're going to do that. Now, redistricting. Let's go into that, all right? I know you guys have been waiting here very, very patiently. So this is what Tennessee looks like today, all right? So this is what Tennessee. Now, before we go too far, this is going to be an abbreviated version of the Substack article. Because in the Substack article, we have charts, we have graphs, we have broke this thing down in great detail. If I turn the Substack article into a video, it'll be a part 1, part 2, part 3. But I've put together on Substack for the redistricting a study piece. All right. So this is what Tennessee looks like. And I'm going to, I keep seeing on social media, Tennessee, do it now. I just went on Facebook and here's a picture of Tennessee. So this is the new map in Tennessee that the governor signed, I think, yesterday. And the one blue congressional seat that was down in Memphis, I think there was one there. But they've erased all Democrat congressional seats. All right. So that's Tennessee. And I keep hearing that. And then I have this right here, right? I have right here. Check it out. Texas map upheld in court. 5 GOP seats. Tennessee passes new map. 1 new GOP seat where they got rid of the court. Florida signs new map into law. 4 more GOP seats. Virginia map overturned in court. 4 GOP seats, right? Okay. Now, this is just something on the internet. Now, here is what I keep seeing in Georgia. This is a proposed map. And this is what we call the 12-2. Now, some are saying right now, Georgia has 9 Republicans and 5 Democrat congressional seats. So the state of Georgia has 14 congressional seats. We have 9 R's, and 5 D's. So some are saying we can go to 11 R's, matey, to some are saying 12. But this right here, this is the ultimate wish list, a 12-2. So people are putting this map up. They would be 12 districts. They would be cut new districts. Looks like I would live in the new 6th district there. But anyhow, District 4 and 5, according to this, would be just the circle around Atlanta. And this would be a 12-2 wish list. Okay? So that's what's out there is a 12-2 wish list. Now, before we go any further, just for clarification, your census gives you your proportion. So the Constitution, you could go read the Constitution, all right? Give it to you generally. But your Constitution gives 435 seats. America has 435 seats. Now, when we do a census, some states lose. Illinois lost one time. I think New York has lost. 2010. Was it 2010? But anyhow, when you do a census, states that lose population can lose a seat. We don't go over 435, but that could shift a seat to another state. So your census gives you proportion of how many seats you get. The Constitution allows the seats, and if you read the Federalist Papers, the Constitution allows the seats once proportioned to a state, we have 14, for that state then to decide the lines of that representation. That's left up to the states. And as they say, spoils go to the party that won the election. There are consequences, as Barack Obama would say, to elections. And keep that in mind. It's right there in the Federalist Papers. It says, hey, there's going to be favoritism, not quote favoritism, this is my word, but it's going to look more favorable, your districts, if you're the winner. That's just how it works. There's a lot more to that, but my general statement is very accurate. So we have 14 districts. Now, you have the Voting Rights Act, and you have the Supreme Court, which we don't want to take time into going into great detail on that, but you have the Supreme Court that said in Louisiana, that path that was drawn right up to Louisiana to just make sure they had that black voter district, period, just for race. Race can't determine. Democrat vote can. You could go after Democrat vote. You could go after Republican vote. You just can't go after race. That's right. So if we redraw the lines, it's a tough argument against the Constitution that, hey, we're the Republicans. We won the election. We're going to redraw, and we're going to go after Democrat votes in this district. Now, we didn't tell black voters to vote Democrat. We didn't tell it, but they do, so that's what happens. But that's not what we're going after. We're going after the Democrat vote. That's actually how it works. And that is the very, very mini interpretation of what happened. Now, we've been waiting for Louisiana to come through Supreme Court with the ruling on that. So now everybody wants to rewrite the districts. Okay, no problem. Want to rewrite them. But Georgia. Now, we've gone through the courts before. We've seen the courts say, you got to redraw your districts. So in Georgia, we have a dilemma. We have Governor Brian Kemp will not call a special session to redraw the districts. So we have the different arguments. But there is a fact. So this is the 14-2. This is the wish list. This is the wish list, right? Today. This is today's wish list. Now, Governor Kemp said, I'm not going to call a special session, period. So we have the noise side that's saying call a special session. We have the political stunt side saying we have to call a special session to help President Trump. We have the pundit side that is taking Brian Kemp's side, the governor. And then there's BKP. We're getting into my side. That being said, Governor Kemp doesn't want to nullify an election. Now, there's a couple things about the special session. He can put a notification out, right? When he puts out a notification, they would go in the session. They would draw the lines just like they did in Tennessee. He would sign it the next day. Now, when he signs the lines, that ends the current election. Ends it. So there has to be new qualifying. New candidates, right? New election, which by law has to give a certain amount of time, right, for voter registration. Then in Georgia, we have to have all this early voting time and so forth. That's number one. So you don't pick up the seats and you get rid of an election. Well, I've had people say online, well, they moved the election in 2020. All right, that's some of the arguments. But the one thing I want to caution you on X, as we get to talking about X, don't get emotional. Anything that drives emotion, pull back from it. Because those people really don't have your best interest at heart. Period. So, governor said no. We're not going to go through all that. Then you have the other factor. It's the members of Congress. You redraw all these, and you draw members of Congress that are already sitting there, the 9 Republicans, and you redraw it, and not only are they still in the Republican district, they got to run in a different district. They got to go qualify not for 9th district, 6th district now. Not for 7th district, 14 now. It'd be all convoluted. So you have that factor. Then you have the voter that says, I already voted, I'm not going back. That could hurt turnout. Or you could really energize the Democrats and say, we got to go out and vote to stop them so we can get a Democrat governor to put a stop to this and change this map. Or it could electrify Republicans to say, let's go and keep this map at least till 2030. So Governor Kemp has made a decision not to call for redistricting at this time in Georgia until the next legislative session for 2028. And hold on, you ready? Got seatbelt strapped in, swallow your drink. Ready? Because I got to prep you. Actually, this is one time I agree with the governor. I agree with Governor Kemp. And I'm going to explain that. And then you got to go read the article. I'm only summarizing today. I got it all laid out in the article why you have to think this all the way around. Short-term gain, long-term chaos. So Governor Kemp said, nope, not going to do it. Right? The redistricting, Greg Bluestein, the redistricting rift has also entered into the U.S. Senate race that has so far sorted itself less on policy than on biography, MAGA credentials, and the basic question of who can beat Democratic incumbent. Now, the Senate candidates don't care to say we need to redistrict now as a political stunt because it doesn't affect them. Their district is the state. They're not members of Congress. Go put your ear to the floor and hear these members of Congress saying redistrict now. No, but Senate candidates, yeah, you're hearing you're hearing them put up the political, yes, we got to do this. Now, Rick Jackson, this is not about Rick Jackson, it's about redistricting. But it concerns me that Rick Jackson he wants to be the next governor, and he doesn't understand this from start to finish. Now, there's a lot of candidates out there talking about it, but Rick Jackson immediately jumped out. The legislature already needed a special session because of Burt Jones put the future of Georgia elections at risk and failed to make our elections more secure. Well, we are happy that Rick Jackson has all of a sudden found election integrity. But that being said, and we know he cannot write a sentence without an attack on Burt Jones. That's okay. That's your opponent. But that's not what happened, Mr. Jackson. In light of today's Supreme Court ruling, redrawing the maps must be added to the agenda. Democrats nationally are trying to redistrict their way back to power, and what happened in Virginia is just the tip of the spear. There is no time to waste. Georgia must act now to ensure secure elections in Georgia and counter the Democrats' national assault. Now, first of all, this clearly tells me, one, he did not write this. He doesn't write any of his stuff. Two, he's not aware of what he's talking about. He doesn't understand this. If you get him in the front of the room and you go through, if you'll go through this video and you go through my article and he's somewhere and you want to write a question, you will find out he has no idea what he's talking about on redistricting. All right. Now, Greg Bluestein put out there, I could give Republican-led states like Georgia a path. It could give Republican-led states like Georgia a path to redraw majority black and Latino electoral districts that often favor Democrats, with major implications to control Congress. Now, there's a reason Bluestein wrote it this way, that redraw majority black and Latino electoral districts, is because he wants to, the liberals want to, keep this as a racial issue. That's what they want to keep going into court with, is racial representation. But he said that often favor Democrats, because he is actually telling you, without telling you, what I just said. We can go after Democrats. We can't pick a race. We can't say we're going to stop these black people from voting. We're going to stop these Latinos from voting. We're going to stop these Asians from voting. Can't do that. You can pick off Democrat sections. That's why he wrote this, right? The New York Times, the Supreme Court struck down Louisiana's voting map. Now, this concerns me because when you retweet Greg Bluestein, you need to know what you just put out. This is Greg Bluestein, AJC. Republican governor candidate Rick Jackson calls for immediate special session to redraw the lines. There is no time to waste. Georgia must act now to ensure secure elections in Georgia and counter the Democrat national assault on elections. All right. Jackson retweeted, but keep in mind what's tied to that tweet is the black and Latino electoral districts. So Rick Jackson, once again, just obviously they're all playing politics. All right. Now we're going to keep this going. A number of GOP candidates and now Georgia GOP and are joining calls for a special session. These new maps must prioritize traditional redistricting principles. All right. Now, Josh McCoon, the chair of the Georgia Republican Party, put out a statement. Right here it is. We're not going to go through it. You can go read it. But today, the United States Supreme Court delivered a historic and long overdue victory for equal protection under the law by striking down key provisions of Voting Rights Act that have long imposed artificial racial quotas and distorted our electoral maps. Now, this is correct. But we are in the position we are in Georgia. I want to be clear. Today, not so much because of the Voting Rights Act, stay with me, but because of our influx of Democrats, our sprawling blue areas into red areas that have creeped in, growing, and the fact that, we have allowed Democrats to take a bite into everything in Georgia. So here is, the Republican Party calls. Now listen to this, because I'm going to break this down. The Republican Party calls on the General Assembly to convene a special redistricting session as soon as practicable. Is that what it is? To redraw Georgia's congressional, state house, and state senate districts. Now, I want to stop right there. They do not have to. It's not mandatory to redraw the state house and state senate districts at the same time. They could. But if they stop and they redraw state house districts so they can pick up red house seats and state senate districts so they can pick up state senate seats, that would be a cluster in itself. You know the rest. Right? So I'm not against it. I'm not saying this is all wrong, but you always have to look at where you're at and where you're going. And how did we get here in the first place? By the Voting Rights Act? Now, political stunts. And this is going to get me in trouble, but I don't care. Here's the Freedom Caucus, all right? The Georgia Freedom Caucus. This is a political stunt. And racial gerrymandering, all right? It's time to redraw the electoral map in Georgia. An activist liberal judge previously forced Georgia to enact racially gerrymandered maps at the behest of the radical left. Now the Supreme Court has recognized that. This is a political stunt, all right? And it's not the first political stunt that Mallory Staples is ever I think she's CEO or chair or whatever she is exactly, but this is not the first political stunt Mallory Staples has been involved in and won't be the last one. This is a political stunt. I'll explain this. This is going to anger some people, but we're here for the truth. Georgia GOP, we stand ready to support swift action that advances fair representation and upholds the equal protection guaranteed of the 14th Amendment. All right, I don't disagree with that at all, but don't forget, you got to read the Substack. That's where I put everything. Here's another political stunt. David Clark running for lieutenant governor. Leadership demands bold and decisive action. I'm calling on Brian Kemp to convene a special session of the Georgia General Assembly for the purpose of redistricting our congressional map. I hope my colleagues in the legislature will join. It's a political stunt. Now, why these people do not take the time to get a full understanding of what they're asking to do and what they want us to do right now to invalidate an election, well, hey, it's not like they don't know how to steal elections, right? It's not like we didn't invalidate the 2020 election, right? It's not like we haven't been there before, but these are stunts. Now we have none other than Greg Dolezal, Greg the bunny ears, fluffy, furry bunny ears, Greg the weasel Dolezal, right? Coming on the heels of the President of the United States saying Tennessee will be working to fix their congressional maps. Georgia, Greg Dolezal joins them, and this is the Charlie Kirk show, and they talk about redistricting, right? He's running for lieutenant governor. John Kennedy. Now, John Kennedy did chair the redistricting committee for 2020. He did chair that redistricting committee. Now, we drew lines in 2020, and we were taken to court. All right. Another side note you got to pay attention to. Just because Louisiana won that case, this is true, and just because Tennessee, they made their move, this is true, doesn't mean that they're not going back to court. This is going to go back to court. And Georgia, what you were trying to do, a 12-2, it would have to go back to court. Just another notch there. Now, John Kennedy did chair the redistricting committee for 2020. We drew the lines, took it to court. Now, what the judge said, and I'm putting it together quickly for the lack of time and argument, judge basically said, look, not going to work. You need to redraw these maps, bring in some more black voting blocks, and they were wrong. The judge was wrong. The court was wrong. But the judge said, if you don't do it, I will. So we had to go back into a special session in 2023. We had to redraw the maps. A judge had to approve them, or the judge was going to put a committee together. He was going to assemble what they call a nonpartisan committee to draw the maps that the judge would approve. That's right. So the argument that's being made, let's fix what they messed up, I'm on board with. But we have an election going, and there's other factors, because I'm going to show you what happened. Now, John Kennedy, today's Supreme Court decision is a victory for common sense, a long overdue win for every southern state forced to bend the knee to the federal courts on redistricting. Twice I've led Georgia through the fight, right? Today's ruling gives Georgia the opportunity to right the wrong Joe Biden's administration inflicted on our state. I know exactly which lines, where ours, and which were forced on us. And I'm the only candidate in the race with the experience to get the job done day one. Now, the lines we had and the ones forced on us, I'm going to show you the differences in those lines. So this is a political stunt by Kennedy, running for lieutenant governor. Now, I agree with what he's saying, but Kemp is not going to push this. I'm going to give you all the reasons here in a minute. Here is none other than, right? Here's none other than Eric Erickson, and he's had some choice words, and he's gotten into arguments. The conservative radio host Eric Erickson on Georgia redistricting. Stop being stupid. The grifters are trying to make you people angry at the governor. All right. Now, this is a district they want. They want the second district. The ruling may not scramble this year's midterms, but it could ignite Georgia's next redistricting war. Bishop is preparing for the fight. The second district in Georgia was drawn to flip Republican. We just haven't got the job done. The second district could go Republican. Now, so here are our districts today. Before I give you a breakdown, these are the districts today. We have 14. We have 14 congressional districts. Now, I have always lived in the 9th district in Georgia. A brief time I lived close to in Cobb County, very brief time when I came to Georgia. But for the most part, I have always lived in the 9th district. Now, the 9th district used to be, all right, all the way across the top of the state, but in 2010, was it 2010? Yes, pretty sure it was 2010, right? We got the new district, the new district, the 14th district. And that split the 9th and the 14th up at the top of the state. But these are the current districts we vote in. And you can see District 2 down there. Now, in order to get District 2 to no longer be blue, all right, so you have District 2. Let me go here real quick. That's in the corner. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue districts right slap in the middle of the state. So to get 2 out of there, this is what they want to do. They want to get 2 out of there, and they want to take those 5 in the center of state by Atlanta and push Democrats out into Republican districts so we could have a 12-2 or a 11-3, but a 12-2, right? Now, what do you have to do here in the 2nd District? You see, we have to move. We have to move Albany, right? We have to move Columbus. We have to move Macon, right? We have to adjust these things. Then we have to come down into the plus R districts and reduce them to get rid of blue districts around Atlanta. Just keep that in mind as we go on here. So, let's go back. This is the current map. Right here. That's the current map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 9, 5. 4 in the center and District 2. So, there you go. Now, we go into redistricting. And this right here, let me remind you, that map we had up earlier. We're not Tennessee. So let me go into that right now. So Tennessee is not a comparison. So for any of you out there, let's stop with the Tennessee. Let's stop. Because here is the breakdown. Tennessee, blue geography, isolated islands. They have Nashville and Memphis are dots. They're isolated, right? Red absorption. Pay attention to this. Rural areas are deep enough to swallow urban slices without flipping. So rural areas that might be a plus 23, to get that last congressional district, they might have to move those down to plus 18, plus 17. That's it. So to move it, see the risk, a low R25 only drops to R15. Pay attention to that. So we're not Tennessee. Isolated, blue dots. Rural areas big enough to absorb, and the low R plus 25, a plus for Republicans, drops to R15. Georgia, suburban sprawl. Atlanta is a massive multicultural engine. Before any redistricting took place, folks, before the courts, Gwinnett County was Republican, and Cobb County was Republican. And Cobb County used to be the jewel. Cobb County, Georgia used to be the Republican jewel of the South. Newt Gingrich, Tom Price, Johnny Isaacson, right? Cobb used to be the Republican jewel of the South. Gwinnett was Republican. So quit yelling the court and the districts. Urban sprawl. Atlanta is a massive multi-county engine. Suburban growth is so fast it infects the rural districts it touches. When we did the redistricting in 2020, we drew a plus, I forget the strength, is it plus 14? I don't know. But we drew a plus district 11. Yes. And we pulled Pickens County out of the 9th district down into the 11th district to make that strong plus. And still yet, lawmakers, when they drew the lines in 2020 in the former Congressman Barry Loudermilk's district, Cherokee County, a little north of Cobb there, Cherokee, Bartow, Gordon, and Pickens, right? They figured right the way that map sets that that district was a plus R for about 10 years. 10 years. Don't touch it. In about 10 years, the Atlanta growth would get infected into those areas. So suburban growth is so fast, it infects the rural districts it touches. It takes, for you to do what we were looking at, it would take high R15s and drop them to R4s. So you got a district that's an R15. They would have to shrink down. They'd still be Republican. And I'm going to show you how that works. To an R4, which makes them vulnerable in a blue wave or makes them vulnerable very soon to flip for Democrats. And another thing, when you have an R15 district, R17, R19, you can command that your member of Congress is a real Republican. You can command that your member of Congress is a true conservative. But you take a 15 and you shrink it down to 4. Keep that in mind. You shrink it to 4. You now get moderate representation. Just saying. Now, so here is, and you may not be able to see this on the screen, but here is the 2020, this is before we started in 2020. All right, this was the district. So in 2020, before we drew new lines, the 9th district, right? The 9th district, Banks County, Hart County, Franklin, we still had that strong, all right, portion there. All right. The 14th district didn't have Cobb County in there. So this is the map. Now, let me show you what happened. This is how we ended up. Well, we always had 9-5, but this is the only way we could do it. We had to dilute the 14th and we had to dilute the 9th. All right? We had to dilute the 14th and we had to dilute the 9th. Now, I can't remember, but in 2020, when I showed you that map just a minute ago, I'm going to show you the plus R. The 9th district was very recently, not long ago, I think it was the 3rd largest Republican voting county in the United States. 1 in Kentucky, 1 in Texas, and I don't know who was 1 and 2. And I think the 9th district was number 3 in the whole United States. And this is what we're having to do to keep our Republican numbers now, today. So here you go. We had to move these counties over into the 10th. All right. We had to reach all the way down into Gwinnett County. I'm going to show you. The 14th had to reach down into Cobb County. The 11th had to reach up to Pickens County and Gordon County because Bartow, the top of Cobb, is already blue. Bartow and the part of Cherokee County that's in there is turning blue. It's not there yet. So they had to pull Pickens County and Gordon County down into the 11th to put the plus R up. Then we had to create the 7th district. There was a 7th district, but remember the 7th district over there, Bob Woodall, right? I'm going off memory, was, go look this up. When Congressman is named Bob Woodall, only won, but was it 5,000 or 500 votes, right? Against the lady, I forget her name. What was her name? I forget her name. But I remember when the 7th district, right? Go back, might sound convoluted, was Republican. I forget the lady's name we lost it to, but it was Rob Woodall. And then she won it the next time. Then her and Lucy McBath got into it because they moved the 6th. This sounds crazy, but you see the new 7th. And we gave up. Republicans gave up the 6th district. Right? The old 6th district. That was the staple stronghold of the Republican Party in Georgia. Gone. Carol Bordeaux, was that her name? Carol Bordeaux? In the 6th district? Carol Bordeaux? That beat Rob Woodall in the 7th. Blah, blah, blah. 7th district. Right? Rob Woodall? Go back and look. This got nothing to do with courts. Everybody keeps yelling the courts. Everybody keeps yelling the Voting Rights Act. I get it. Every single bit of that is true. But what happened in Gwinnett? Was that the Voting Rights Act or did it turn blue? What happened in Cobb? Is that the Voting Rights Act or did it turn blue? Right? Henry County. So, now, let me show you something. Here is, and I'm giving you this right now, the pre-2020 baseline. The 9th district was a plus 32. Plus R32. The pre-2020 baseline, the 9th district was a R plus 32. The 14th district was an R plus 28. Now, when we put the maps in, the first maps in 2021, before the court said no, absolutely not, right? When we put the first maps in 2021, the R went down to 22 in the 9th district. The 9th district went to an R22. The 14th went to an R22. Then the court came back and said, no, that's not going to work. Give us some new maps. The 9th district went to an R17, and the 14th district went to an R19. From an R28 to an R19, from an R32 to an R17. Now, if you were go to 12-2, let's say we took the map right now. We go to redistricting, right? Go to redistricting. And we come out right now with 3 more Republican districts. 3 more, right? Okay, fine. Let's do it. And we're all excited. We got 3 more Republican members of Congress. A 12-2 map, in order to do that, you would have to delete the 9th district down to an R plus 4 or an R plus 7. Meaning you got to go further down into, Gwinnett. You got to go maybe even into DeKalb. Oh, yeah. So the 9th district before the 2020 baseline was an R32. A 12-2 map could bring the 9th district down to an R4 or an R7. Right on the verge of flipping a district that was not long ago, 6 years ago, an R32. The 14th district, it would bring that down to an R14 or an R7. Right? Put these 2 massive strongholds, the strongest R's in the state, in striking distance, and very moderate members of Congress. Now, I'm going to go over a couple things before I close. So, there's two sides to this. And I get it. There's a firestorm to two sides. But as I always remind you, don't let emotion drive the day. Don't let that drive the day. So filter through. There's noise on social media, right? Now, there is this. So if you don't do it now, let's look at this side. You don't do this now. What if a governor is a Democrat? So if you go and redraw the state now, you save it for the decade. You should have it saved for the decade. That would be 2026, 2028, and it would get us to 2030. Right? So if you do, you got some short-term, you could have some short-term gain, right? No gain, no pain. Or is that the other way around? No, you'd have short-term, you'd have some instantaneous gain. You may have a lot of pain when it's over. So now or never, insurance policy. So, hey, by calling a special session now, while Kemp is in office and the GOP legislative majority are comfortable, they can lock in a 12-2 map that carries them through 2028 and 2030. But the veto trap. Congressional maps are passed as regular law. If Republicans lose the governor's mansion, any 12-2 map they attempt to draw in the future will be vetoed. And they don't have a supermajority. So there could be the now or never. The chaos scenario, nullifying the 2026 election, tearing up the ballots, redrawing the maps, the turnout paradox. It could fire up Democrats to come out and put a Democrat in the governor's seat so they can rip up our maps. Or what if we lose 5 state house seats and now there has to be more negotiations to put a map together for a Democrat governor. So there is the chaos scenario, nullifying the 2026 election. Now I have this all in the article, broke down in a form that really lays out all the scenarios of what could happen. So there's a lot more in the article than in this video. Now, there is the ghost of the 6th lesson in delusion. The ghost of the 6th. Yes, in Georgia. Lessons of delusion. To understand the immediate risk of a 12-2 map, we have to look at the old 6th district. Once the crown jewel of the Georgia Republicanism, the home of Newt Gingrich and Johnny Isakson, it is now the blue stronghold. We surrendered it. We had to surrender the 6. To bolster the 7, the rural sacrifice, to turn the 7th district into a safe plus R seat, they had to dilute deep red northern districts like the 9th, stripping away conservative votes to pull the 7th district to the right. Just saying. We don't have a lot to move, is what I'm getting at. The 12-2 pizza slice scenario and what's called dummy mandering risk. All right? And I have this, what we talked about today. The 14th district currently, instead of stopping in its outer exurbs, the 14th would have to stretch deep into South Cobb, Douglas, western Fulton County, and soak up blue votes. The 9th district would have to abandon its purely mountainous identity, right? Purely mountainous identity and sweep down to swallow massive, heavily Democratic chunks of Gwinnett and northern DeKalb County. Wow. The math delusion, all right? So I have the districts in here and the math that I just showed you on the screen. I've got that in the article. This is easy. You should share it with people. And the dangers, all right? You would successfully create 12 Republican seats today, but instead of having safe districts, you would end up with a dozen highly vulnerable +4 or +5 R +4 or 5 districts. Whew. Why Georgia is not Tennessee? I've got that all broke down because you're going to hear your friends, and I have the chart in there in the article, because you're going to hear your friends say, okay, hey, how come you don't we don't do what Tennessee? No, you can't do what Tennessee did. I have it broke down in here. So if you get this on YouTube or you get this on Rumble channel, right, the video, go to our Substack and get the article so you can share the graphs. Now, before we close up, what did we not talk about? I'll give you, these are my closers here. What if we end up with 15 districts after 2030? Now, what you may not know, in 2020, right, we were this close, just a fraction away from getting 15 districts. And 15 districts by population, right? 435 districts. Some states lose population, and then it goes into, I think if let's say you lose 4 seats, then that population gets divided into who has the top 4 population that grew, they get the seats. It can get a little convoluted. But in 2020, we were on the edge of a 15th district. Now, you can go look this up. We're on the bubble of a 15. We are on the bubble. You go look it up. So you go 12, you go 12-2. You change it now, 12-2. And you get a 15th district, and you tell me where you fit that in and where you slice up your Republicans. So you basically get a 15th district. You might have to just give it to a Democrat. Think about it. How does that fit into the map? And the final piece of the puzzle is the next decade. Georgia is currently on the bubble to gain a 15th congressional district following the 2030 census. If a state executes a 12-2 supermap, now they have completely exhausted their Republican math. You don't have Republican math anymore. In 2030, that 15th one goes in here. Think about it all the way around. I have this all in the Substack article. Every bit of it's in the Substack article. All right? So, now before we leave for today, a better way forward. I'm not opposed to redistricting. I just don't think we're there. And I don't think it's been thought all the way through. And I don't like political stunts, as you well know. And I don't like people just throwing stuff against the wall saying, will it stick? One thing that Democrats do better than Republicans is they play long game. Republicans have to try to redraw. Why do we have to redraw and get a pencil out to save our majorities? Right? Why are we trying to save the majority in Congress based on redrawing lines and not our Republican policy or keeping our promises as Republicans to the voters? So a better way forward. The reality of the Georgia's political map is complex, and the math can be brutal, while the temptation to endlessly redraw district lines in the quest of every larger majorities is understandable. There is a fraud. I'm sorry. There is a fundamental, I apologize. There's a fundamental truth we must eventually confront. We cannot gerrymander our way out of demographic reality. We can't. How long can we keep moving borders, stretching our safe districts to the breaking point, and diluting our most conservative strongholds just to stay one step ahead of the suburban sprawl? At some point, relying on a pencil and a map to secure our future is a strategy of dismissing, or is a strategy, of diminishing returns. So, at some point, relying on a pencil and a map to secure our future is a strategy of diminishing returns. Okay? Instead of constantly reworking, this is in my article, instead of constantly reworking the geography, perhaps the most sustainable path forward is a return to the core of our conservative philosophy. If we want a lasting majority, we need to focus on growing our base and getting our message out to the voters. True Republican power doesn't come from clever cartography. It comes from effective governance and policies that resonate with people. If we win on the merits of our ideals, we won't have to keep redrawing lines every time we turn around. That's the way we keep our majorities, is with a sharpened pencil. We have to get our foothold back. You see, most people are conservatives. Most people have our values. Most people see it like us, our messaging. Well, we'll go into that on a different day. Now, I'm going into the weekend. I'll have some more articles coming up. Don't forget, you could go to our Substack, right? You can go to our Substack, check things out on our Substack. And let me get this down for now. I want to go with one more. This is the disclosure for Rick Jackson. Right here. Now, we have Georgians for Integrity, right? We have the 17 million in dark money? Well, Rick Jackson denies that 17 million is his. But in this campaign contribution disclosure report, Rick Jackson's already put in, as of, what's the date? Do I have a date? This just came out. Rick Jackson's already put in $73,482,000. $73,482 Rick Jackson has put in, not to count, but we do not have fact that Rick Jackson is responsible, but we have that other 17 million, Georgians for Integrity. 73,482,113.72. That would have, for the price of a cup of coffee, that would have, what could that have done for foster care in the state? What could that have done for the widows? All those widows he said were going to lose their home because of property tax. Wow. What could that have done for many things? other than buy an election. And you still believe this guy's on the up and up? Really? 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 All right, so just saying, we have more of that to come. All right, I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics. Now go to our Substack. Remember, go to the Substack, Vora, V-O-R-A, at BKP Politics. We have 2 other articles on there that maybe you didn't get because you watch Rumble or YouTube, all right, that don't have a video. They're just articles on there. So sign up for our Substack. We want to thank everyone that has become a paying member of Substack. We haven't switched it over 100% because we know you're stepping up. So we appreciate that. Please continue to step up and become a paying member of our Substack channel. Share everything with your friends. And this video today, our article, spells everything out so you can share it with others. And stop saying, how come we're not redistricting like Tennessee? Come on, stop saying that. Come on, man. Really, man? Come on, man. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Don't forget, next Friday night, 7 to 9, Roy Hambrick, Small Town Underground, live show. I asked Roy, I drive over 2 hours up there. Am I getting the green light? He told me I got the green light. We're doing a pre-election show. Come on, man. All right, I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Redistricting.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
The left is siding with illegals, attacking ICE, and fighting to let non-citizens vote. Republican Kelvin King is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, Air Force veteran, and conservative businessman. As Georgia's Secretary of State, Kelvin will put Americans first, root out corruption, clean up voter rolls, and restore confidence in our elections. The other candidates had their chance and failed. Republican Kelvin King for Secretary of State, leadership Georgia voters can trust.
Pro-Trump warrior Steve Gooch won't just cut property taxes in Georgia. He'll throw them straight in the wood chipper.
Senior citizens on fixed income shouldn't be forced from their homes. Neither should veterans who have served our country and fought for our freedoms. And neither should anyone else for that matter. Frankly, these crazy property taxes are un-American. I'll tear them to shreds. We'll make home ownership great again.
Steve Gooch for Lieutenant Governor, toughest tax cutter Georgia's ever seen.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.